Hello everybody, welcome to SpeedGaming 2. This is a Blazers Brown match between MrByer and RedKitsune8. Sorry, I was just checking something really quick. Okay, so welcome to the No Logic tournament of 2022. This should be a really exciting match. Both these players are very good. And this is game 2. MrByer has won the first round. So if Red does not win this match, he will be eliminated. For those who are not familiar, No Logic is a format where items can be literally anywhere in the game. There is no algorithm that ensures beatability, and we are allowed to use several major glitches to beat the game. This also is a double rods preset, so there are 2 fire rods and 2 ice rods. That is done for a few very good reasons. And we are getting started. We have Bugnet in the Sanctuary and 20 rupees at Link's house. So MrByer is setting up clip to go to the item on the island. Early bottle is great. The bottle is one of the most important items in No Logic because potions can be used for glitches. The very powerful glitches that can be used to travel around in the underworld or have a variety of other effects as well. There is another bottle in the Lumberjack. I don't think we'll be seeing them get that, but it is not unheard of. Okay. Another bottle in the Lost Woods, okay. So, runners should not be having any issues. Well, at least not as many issues as we've seen in some other seeds. And MrByer gets a swim clip. You can see he has swam directly through the land into the Ice Rod Cave. So this opener that MrByer is doing has become a very common meta in this tournament. And RedKitsune8 finds the King of Samaria in the well in Kakariko. That's one of the most powerful items in the game easily. No swords yet, but a lot of very good items are available to our runners right off the bat in this seed. The big key of Desert Palace is a convenient key to have, because Desert is often an early play in No Logic. It generally is treated as part of the overworld. So finding it there in Blind's hideout is a pretty good find. That key can also be used in other dungeons as well, if they want to do that, such as Mire or Thieves Town. Red has saved the chicken. You love to see it. Half magic is a nice item to find. Sometimes when we use potion glitches to reach bosses, it can leave us, or glitches that consume magic, it can leave us with not the resources you would like to deal with the boss. So half magic is a really good safety item. But a lot of items that would generally be required in A Link to the Past are really optional in this mode. For the most part, everything is an item that would be nice to have. But they do need the Master 2 or the Master Level 2 sword or better, and a fire source for Ganon at the minimum to beat the game. Everything else is just like negotiable on how they want to tackle these dungeons. It is also worth noting that these are key sanity seeds, so the runners do not have any knowledge of the pendants and crystals or the prizes of the dungeons, as we call them, until they either talk to NPCs, find maps, or just defeat the bosses or dupe the prizes. So MrByer did a Death Mountain ascent and has entered Hera and has already left. Didn't find that much. Meanwhile, Red is into Desert. So Red has done a Samaria transition corruption, and that has allowed him to get into Thieves Town from Desert. That's one of the many ways you can do that. Well, this specific one is kind of unique to Samaria, but there are a lot of ways to reach Thieves Town from Desert. Only 50 rupees in the attic, but it's really nice to have that bombed open prematurely. And if Red had wanted to, he could have actually went downstairs and stole the key and before death warping, because he got the item and bombed open the floor, there would be no reason to use that key in Thieves Town. The desert is kind of a hub in no logic. It connects to Mire or Swamp or, as we just saw, Thieves Town as well. It also connects to Ganon's Tower. Meanwhile, MrByer is rescuing the old man. Red is setting up a quadrant glitch. By standing on an invisible boundary in a room and getting hit by the BMOs, Red is able to be desynced from his coordinates. This is known as arming the quadrant glitch. Unfortunately, did not get it and also took a death. But the goal of this glitch is to access the right side of Desert without using a key. MrByer doing the Graveyard Ledge descent to check the item here. There are various DMAs or DMDs, glitches that we use, like Death Mountain Ascent or Descent. The cape is a really nice safety to have. as well. There are a lot of unconventional boss fights that come up in No Logic. Like the Hookless Argus, the cape is a really nice safety, or a low health Helmasaur. There's a common trick we used to get to Helmasaur involves bombing yourself and taking spike damage, so it's nice to have stuff like that. And meanwhile, Red has successfully gotten the quadrant glitch. Small key to this dungeon is interesting. And a red boomerang, it looks like. Having that key is really convenient because there are reasons he would want to have that door open even though he already accessed the items. Or he could use that key in another dungeon if he wants to as well. But since he's going back in, we might see a Samaria glitch in that door, which would take him to Swamp. I apologize if there have been questions in chat. I'm trying to load SpeedGaming on my phone and it is not cooperating at all. I have a limited screen space on my PC, so I do apologize. So Red is doing an East Samaria. We saw a North Samaria earlier. This East one is a lot trickier, though. It does not correct the camera, but that'll... I don't know. I could not tell if what his goal there was, but he decided to take a death just to be safe. Maybe he was worried about the camera. My understanding, if you're not going to the boss, it shouldn't be an issue. Hey, I do not know why he's setting up a Samaria in this door. I mean, there is a reason you would, but yeah, you would want a weapon to fight Argus with usually. I don't know, maybe? I'm just gonna assume he's doing something I don't know about. Meanwhile, MrByer is doing a door juke and gets from Mini Moldorm Cave to King's Tomb. Yeah, Red is corrupting the transition like many, many times. Looks like... Oh, I didn't know you could get to Turtle Rock that way. That's a new one for me. That's very interesting. I wonder how many times he corrupted that transition to get that far. So, the glitch that MrByer did, the door juke, could be done with bombs or Samaria, but you can use an item to snap yourself onto the other side of a transition. Oh, wow, the hook shot in the lava chest there in TR. And Red showing us that you can open the chest multiple times when you reach it with that North Samaria. So that's an incredible early find for Red. Right now, it's just a convenience item, but later on, in combination with other items, Red can do a very powerful glitch called hook pushing. Assuming he finds other items to go with it. Like, ideally, you would have a sword, an item to set your index, such as the lamp, or powder, or other things, but ideally the lamp and a sword. But there are a lot of items you can use in combination to do what we call misslotting glitches. MrByer exploring Kakariko is getting his goodies as well. Must have been a sword in Mini Moldorm or King's Tomb or somewhere along MrByer's route, because I missed where he got it. And a flute as well. That was a pretty neat route that Red did. I knew there was a way to get to Turtle Rock from the back of Desert, but doing it from the front is a lot more convenient. And it got him the hookshot at this seed. Red is setting up a Death Mountain ascent. We saw the Lumberjack DMA from MrByer. This one is the new DMA. It's like unfortunately missed a quick hop and has to do a backup to get the last jump, but reaches the Old Man Rescue Cave without using a glove. Oh, the flute was on the Old Man. That's convenient. The Old Man is almost always rescued very early on in a glitched mode. The mountain, even though it's on top of the map, is a very central location if you know overworld glitches. MrByer stealing the race game item, very nice. Only 50 bucks, but does it quickly. The red is showing us a nice little hover in Spectacle Rock. It falls on the way back and decides to save and quit. That amused me that he tried to hover back. With only 4 bombs, I guess the hover is better than a bomb jump if you know how to do that. The red also showing us the Graveyard Ledge DMD. MrByer also doing the North Samaria to Thiefstown. I'm curious if MrByer will steal the key or not, because MrByer does not yet know that the Desert Small Key is in the right side of Desert, locked behind itself, and he's about to get it regardless. So whenever you do a Death Mountain descent using an overworld glitch, the camera is broken like just enough so that when you fall in a hole, that you will be placed in the Houlihan room if you do not correct the camera. And MrByer did go downstairs and steal the key. This is a very heads-up play. Even if he doesn't need it for Desert, it can be used in other dungeons, and how useful that will depend on specifically on this seed. If Meyer is a crystal and the medallion is unavailable, going to Meyer from Desert, using that small key and the big key might be a good option. Of course, MrByer intended to use it here to not have to do the quadrant glitch. MrByer is going back to Thiefstown, this time using a potion glitch. This is a YBA, or Yuzuhara's Bottle Adventure. So when you drink a potion on the same frame as a screen transition, it can have a variety of effects. It's generally used to transport yourself around the underworld, but Since MrByer is here with the Desert Big Key and a small key, that is plenty to navigate the dungeon. A lot of times we would see this done in what's known as cave state, where you enter a dungeon from a cave rather than through the front door of that dungeon or another dungeon. But right now, MrByer is in desert state because the last place he entered was desert, from the overworld anyway. Red gets his ice rod in Ice Rod Cave, a very convenient place for that. MrByer doing a glitch called LSD blind to keep the door open. Because if MrByer did not do that, he would either be trapped in this room after the fight is over, or he could collect the prize, which is the desert prize that will fall, and it would warp him to the front. And that is probably undesirable because he doesn't have the Thieves' Town Big Key, so getting back to this room in Thieves' Town state to collect the prize would be a little bit of a hassle. So MrByer now knows from that desert is actually a crystal. We do not know the Thieves' Town prize yet. Red is setting up the same, what we call a fought that MrByer did earlier. It's a funny auto walk thing, so that he'll be able to get the bottle on the Lake Hylia Island. When you transition, while you're standing on top of a screen transition, you get that auto walk that you just saw Red do. Alright, so MrByer exiting Thieves' Town and entering the front door, so now his dungeon ID is Thieves' Town, as you would expect, but there are so many ways to get into dungeons in this mode that becomes very relevant. So now, by going to the blind boss room, with the boss defeated, he'll be able to collect the prize of Thieves' Town, as opposed to the crystal that fell earlier, which was the desert crystal. The green pendant for Thieves' Town, we could have found that out by talking to Sahasrara, but nonetheless, MrByer has it now. He also has info on Desert. And an uncle play from Red. So meanwhile, MrByer is able to explore the village of outcasts without having the Moon Pearl, because he traveled through the underworld to get here, which means he did not do a world transition using a portal or the mirror or anything like that. So this is what's known as the fake Dark World. Since the game thinks he's in the Light World, but he's on a Dark World screen, it will load the Light World when he screen transitions. However, he is able to do these checks without doing any glitches because the game did not check to see if he has the Moon Pearl. Okay, so MrByer leaving Village of Outcasts now is in the real light world, but since we came from the fake dark world, the trees and the palettes and terrain are a little bit different than you might expect. And this is actually behavior that happens in the vanilla game if you were to use glitches. It's patched out of a no glitches randomizer usually, so you don't see it unless you're playing a glitched mode. So by entering Underworld and then exiting to the Overworld, it reloads the regular scenery that you're used to seeing. That was kind of neat. He just continued his desert route, but from Thieves Town. Oh, the mirror in Hyrule Castle. That's a really interesting place for that, because a lot of runners like to put off the castle until you have the mirror, because you can use the mirror to check Pyramid Fairy and the Pyramid Ledge if you set it up beforehand. So far, I think that's the only thing of value that Red found in the castle, other than the big key from the Ball and Chain Guard. And the significance of that specific big key, it's one of the 4 Cave State big keys. And what I mean by that is, when we enter a dungeon, like from an underworld location that is not a dungeon, it's considered a cave. And you need a Cave State big key to open big key locks, like the doors and big chests, when you're in Cave State. Well, MrByer buying the bomb upgrade. It's a very common thing to do in No Logic. Meanwhile, Red is setting up a glitch in this door in the Uncle Passage. I've never seen this North Samaria before. That's interesting. Huh. So one of the things that Samaria glitches, or STC, Samaria Transition Corruptions, can do, is they create invisible pits. And the pits sometimes have warp destinations. So we saw that Red reached the inside of Palace of Darkness from the Uncle Passage, but with a very messed up camera and also despawned sprites. I mean, well, MrByer doing a fake flute. This is an overworld YBA. Yeah, again, drinking a potion on the same frame as a screen transition can have a variety of effects. So in this case, MrByer is able to flute in the Dark World using a blue potion. But this first screen that you start on after the flute is the fake light world. And so he screen transitioned into the real Dark World. Coming out, Paradox Cave play from Red. Oh, Master Sword and Hype Cave, that's a good find. And we got a bow and Paradox on Red's side. Hera and Pod are the red crystals. Them being the red crystals isn't really significant, because we won't see people buying the red bomb in this mode, but just knowing that they're crystals is good information. Right now, if the enemies leave him alone, MrByer is setting up another fought. This is, we call this the river fought, but it's the Dark World version of a glitch commonly done in restricted major glitches speedruns. I think a couple other runs might use it too, like all bosses major glitches. No EG. Maybe overshot the frame a little bit on that one. Just understandable. Trying to select buffer quickly can be tricky to do at times. But once he gets this, he will be able to reach the other side without, using a hammer. That's the goal of this. And he gets it. Very nice. So this is kind of a lengthy endeavor for one item, but it is a play that Red might not make, so unfortunately it's nothing, but that could have been a big play. I've had seeds where that was important. Sorry, I think our info bot is not working right now. Just trying to pull up the tournament information in chat for a viewer. I apologize about that. And normally, if you type exclamation point no logic, it brings up a lot of information about the tournament. Oh, MrByer into Castle Tower. And Red using the hook shot to climb Hera. So Red doesn't know this yet, but he's about to get a crystal. And MrByer doing the uncle, and we'll probably do the castle checks as well after this, I would assume. Because they have not found any other cave keys yet. Like, the desert big that they have is a pretty good one to have. The Meyer big is only useful if they find the Meyer medallion as well to use it. So we have one crystal on the board for Red. And I have to say, that play to Turtle Rock could prove to be very huge for Red. MrByer could go get that hook shot. There are a variety of ways, especially with the mirror that he's about to get in the basement of Hyrule Castle. But the middle of Turtle Rock is generally kind of an out-of-the-way play. Usually when people make a play for CR, it's to go to Laser Bridge. Because it's just more checks more quickly, higher density. So Red is setting up a Kiki skip, which is a clip to get into Palace of Darkness from Spectacle Rock Cave. So since Red did not enter any dungeon through the front door, this is known as Cave State. So using the key from Hyrule Castle, he'll be able to open the big chest. And since we are in Cave State, and the game doesn't expect you to be in a dungeon in Cave State, we're also able to open all the small key doors without consuming any actual keys in our inventory. Powder is the first indexing item we've seen. The Red going for the right side hover. This is a very precise trick on top of already being a hover, and he gets it really quickly first try. Those were two junk items, so it wasn't. Well, the significance of the hover is that you don't have to walk back and forth. When you're in cave state pod, you cannot mirror back to the front, and you also, assuming they had it, you could not use the hammer to drop down and walk around because there are no crystal switches. So if you can't do that hover, you basically have to walk all the way around and all the way back to get those checks. If you want to do it in cave state, that is. So another interesting thing about routing pod in this cave state, but well, regardless of cave state or pod state, in no logic, since we can duplicate items using potions or Cane of Samaria glitches, it becomes kind of mind-boggling how in the order you want to open the chests, because copying like chest data or like duping an item, you have to have a chest that's closed in an adjacent room, and it also has to be the one that matches up to the chest in the super tile you're trying to copy it to. So if you see them do things that might seem inefficient, that's probably why. Like, I happen to know that this big chest copies to the lower chest in the dark maze. Like, there's a map that has all the chests numbered, and the runners are allowed to look at it if they want to during the race. So it's a consideration that people might, take into account. And mushroom also in pod, which has proven to be more useful than you might expect lately due to some recent glitches, which also set the index for misslotting glitches. Hey, the book as well. The book is an interesting item, because the tablet items can only be obtained by using the book and Master Sword or better. By that I mean there are no glitches to obtain those items in other ways. The same thing for like the shovel item, for example, or the dig spot, however you want to put that. Now, you may also be wondering why there are no enemies in this version of House of Darkness. It's because the specific clip that they used to get here wraps the entire underworld map, and for whatever reason, a side effect of that is that the sprites are despawned. That's why the crystal switch is also not there, and the bumper is not there either. Okay, so by exiting and re-entering, Red is now in Palace of Darkness state. Red is setting up a glitch called Statue Drag to Almasaur. And by storing this statue pulling animation, and placing these bombs and moving in a fairly precise way, he's able to bypass this transition on the front door. And you can see he wrapped to the top of the super tile that he was on. And so by manipulating the camera from this state that's known as like juked, you can get into the boss's room by moving through the underworld map. It does force you to take damage to do it, though, is the only like downside. But you can do it with only bombs. He used the mirror to make it faster, but it's not required. And he's getting some pause buffer strats. It does have the cape and half magic if he wanted to play it safe. It would have been a slower fight, but nonetheless, Red gets the fight done and is going to get his second crystal. Silver arrows on Helmasaur, well, which will be the first bow for MrByer, also doing the statue drag right now. And by shooting 2 arrows into an object and using the powder like that, Red has set an index of 6. And that's not the best index, but there are ways to do misslotting glitches with the index of 6. Meanwhile, MrByer also gets his Helmasaur fight done, so first crystal for MrByer. Red setting up a hook push. Nice. Yeah, this is one of my favorite index 6 pushes. I'm not fully, practiced on a lot of the setups you can do, but the silver arrows make this a lot easier for index 6 pushing, in my opinion. And you can see that he's in the Mothula arena. Will not be able to collect a dungeon prize this way, but will get the Mothula item if he succeeds at this fight, because we are still in pod state right now. And Red has already collected the crystal from Helmasaur. Meanwhile, MrByer setting up a quadrant glitch. This has become affectionately known as Turtle Power by some of our runners and viewers. A nice fight from Red. The Moth is such a pain with Fighter Sword and like no hammer or fire rod or any like artillery. Just rupees on the boss, but we'll be able to collect the Skullwoods prize in a variety of other ways. It could just go to Skullwoods and go into the back. With the hook pushing that you just saw that he can do, he doesn't not even need the fire rod to get to the back. But even if Skullwoods ends up being a pendant, there are advantages to having bosses dead in other dungeons for prize dupes. As prize dupes can be a faster way to obtain the dungeon prizes. Meanwhile, MrByer has set up multiple quadrant glitches. He's going for a third one right now. And the result of this is he'll be able to transition to Hookshot Cave and also into the basement of Ganon's Tower. MrByer is quite an innovator in the glitch community. Like, he does a lot of tech and setups that no one else does, and many of them he recently discovered. You can see now that he is in Hookshot Cave, although it looks a little bit different because it's pod state Hookshot Cave. And now in Ganon's Tower, with flippers behind ice armors and a glove. Well, that's pretty stacked. The flippers are a huge, huge convenience item if Swamp is a crystal. The glove is mostly a convenience item because there are ways to bypass glove requirements for pretty much everything. Like, the most useful thing about having a glove is that you can, well, you can check checkerboard, like, more easily, because the other glove requirements, like, there are ways to get into the glove lock locations quite easily, like Cold Stare, or like we saw earlier, the Death Mountain Ascent. They didn't need a glove for that either. You can clip into the back of Escape as well, so the glove is really just kind of a time saver. So, MrByer, once again, since he traveled through the underworld to reach an overworld location, is now in the fake dark world. And MrByer is about to get his hook shot as well. So this is a really interesting play here. So Red is going to show us Bombo's tablet. We did not see this earlier from either runner. Just rupees, though. Oh, Red showing us one of the reasons you don't need a glove. Just doing a little clip jump to get to the back of Desert. So despite not having a fire source, Red is able to get to the boss of Desert in multiple ways. We see the big key of Skull Woods in the compass chest in Turtle Rock. Red did not make it this far. He died on the way. I did not see if that was a intentional death or not, but I'm assuming not because he left. Or maybe didn't have keys to get all the way through. I honestly can't remember. Meanwhile, MrByer also taking an unfortunate death, though. It was trying to set up a North Samaria to check the right side without the need of a fire rod. Meanwhile, Red is trying to set up a spin YBA or a spin mirror door. Either way, we'll be able to reach the boss doing this. There are also hook pushes you can use to reach the boss, but I find them to be a little bit annoying compared to some rooms are just a lot easier to do them in. But nonetheless, Red gets the spin YBA. So MrByer now going to East Death Mountain after his Turtle Rock play. He's gonna get his silver arrows in Paradox Cave. I don't think there was anything else interesting. So Red gets his third crystal from Desert. Yeah, having the flute is really nice when you don't have a glove to get out. You're trapped behind the rocks. Could have saved and quit, but this is more convenient. Red, not sure what he was doing there. Maybe thinking about setting up a water walk. Or maybe thinking about doing the door juke if he did not do it earlier. I'm not sure, but either way, back on the mountain for Red. showing us a little NMG style mountain climb there. Alright, Red into the Dark World with a blue potion out, setting up a fake flute. And MrByer showing us why flippers are annoying in glitched modes. If you aren't specifically using them for Swamp, that is. We saw this earlier from MrByer, but in a different location. So when you use a fake flute, you're given a Super Bunny state, and when you pull on a tree in a Super Bunny state, it gives you a link state that you can use on the overworld until you exit the overworld and re-enter it. And Red is setting up what's known as a tree warp. This glitch is a sprite overload, so I see now why he went to Mini Moldarm Cave. This makes sense now, although this is elaborate, though. I'm surprised that he went to all this trouble. I mean, maybe he's thinking about Go mode already and wants the Master Sword right away. So you saw that he was able to be transported to the last underworld location he entered. That's because this sprite overload tree warp glitch spawns a wall master. And that's what wall masters do. They always take you to the last entrance that you entered, regardless of where you are. And in this case, it closes all the chests that are in that entrance super tile. So he got all of those chests and items again. I apologize again to Chad that our bot is not working. I can do my best to answer questions that you may have. Yeah, there are multiple ways of duping items in no logic. Using glitches that are typically not allowed. Like I said, the one that Red used is a tree warp, which is not something that everybody is willing to do because it's risky. It can corrupt your save file or crash your game as well, but there are other glitches using potions or the Cane of Samaria that can copy room data, like such as the flag that tells the game whether a chest is open or closed or not. So you can dupe items that way as well. So Red did go through extraordinary lengths to get that Master Sword. I think that MrByer's second sword was in Thieves Town, and Red may never go there because we know that it's the green pendant now, but... And I'm not sure what kind of glitch that he was trying to set up there, but it did not work out, so he decided to leave. Red is showing me some interesting things that we have not seen from other runners in this tournament, at least to my knowledge. Yeah, capacity upgrades, yeah. Yeah, resources can become very demanding and no logic. Using sprite overloads with your ammo to do misslotting glitches. Oh, MrByer has found the lamp, and the lamp is the best item for misslotting because it sets a very high index without the need of doing anything other than just using it. And he's setting up a hook push right now. And you can see he just went from the first room of Eastern directly to the boss room. Yeah, I did not see where the lamp was either. I'm guessing that it was probably in TR. Because they've been in a lot of the same places, but Red did not make it all the way to the. Or no, wait. If Red died in Chain Chomps, then it could have been in that room because they've done a lot of the same checks. Although Red has not been to Thieves Town and MrByer has not been to the top of Hera. Oh, it could have been. There was one check in Hookshot. Excuse me. I apologize. There was one check in Hookshot Cave that MrByer was able to get because he did not have his hookshot yet. So it could have been that as well. So Red setting up a YBA is actually going to go to Thieves Town after all. It looks like. Again, for those that are unfamiliar, when you drink a potion on the same frame as the screen transition, it can have a variety of glitchy effects, and in this case, it takes him into Thieves Town from the Uncle Passage. It looks like that North Samaria that he did earlier in this area deleted the chest, unless he's been here before and I missed it. That is another thing to be cautious about with Samaria glitches. Not only can you close chests, you can also open them by mistake. And Red, forgetting that he doesn't have a glove yet, has to go around. Meanwhile, MrByer has the Eastern Crystal, but decided to explore a little bit, setting up a hook push. This will take him to Meyer. Unfortunately, doesn't get it, but has plenty of resources to set it up again. So, for those that missed it, both of the runners actually went to the top of Thieves Town before entering to the bottom, so that's why the light is already in Blind's arena. It's because they opened the top earlier. And Red did a glitch that we saw earlier from MrByer called LSD Blind to keep the door open. Because Red is here in Cave State, he will not be able to collect a dungeon prize, meaning no pendant or crystal. So by keeping the door open, he won't be trapped in the room after the fight. So I missed the Meyer medallion on MrByer's side, but it is leaving the area. And did not use the mirror, so he's back in the light world. This is another example of fake worlds, transitioning from fake dark world to real light world. If he used the mirror, it would have corrected his world state to a real dark world, but without the Moon Pearl, his options are somewhat limited. He could do item checks as a bunny, but those are generally slow to do. Thank you very much, chat. Yeah, it makes sense that the medallion would be Bombo's because he would have opened it otherwise. And I don't know if it was answered, but I saw it earlier, a question in the chat. MrByer did go from pod, did the triple quadrant glitch to go to Hookshot Cave and then get the 3 chests behind Ice Armos. And then after that, exited to the overworld, and went into TR. But did unfortunately take a death in the front, so abandoned the chests on the Firelock side. Was trying to do a North Samaria when the floating skull got him. But Red was in TR earlier and took a death, so the lamp might have been in the chain shop room, but I'm not sure. But the lamp, as is a fairly large advantage for MrByer because it makes the mislotting glitches, like, I don't want to say free because you still have to know how to do them, but the setups are really convenient. So MrByer did a citrus clip to ascend the mountain, what's known as a bunny DMD. It is now in Skullwoods. So Red re-entering Thievestown also gets his green pendant. So this North Samaria that MrByer is trying to set up will dupe the chest above, but it will also allow him to open the big key chest behind the mummy statue room without entering that room. It will copy the contents onto the compass chest in the pit room here. And he may decide to mirror or just loop around, and you can see that the rooms are rearranged because of the corruption. So even if he didn't have the mirror, he can just exit that way. Can still check the compass chest, though. It's important to note. It doesn't, like, delete it or anything. So Red showing us fake worlds by using his mirror many times. MrByer opening this chest again. Or I don't know, maybe it was for the first time. He just didn't do it. So you can see that it was a different item in that chest this time. Yeah, another sword in Skullwoods. Okay, MrByer using the lamp, setting an index. Probably about to set up a stuck push to the back of Skullwoods. Oh, lamp was green pendant. Okay, that makes sense. Well, I guess it's good that Red did Thievestown then. Meanwhile, MrByer gets his stuck push, is in the back of Skullwoods, and needs to remember not to mirror after checking his chest, because it will take him back to the front. Don't expect him to do that, but it is something you have to be aware of when you do that. Okay, so I expect Red to do the same hook push that we saw from MrByer to get to... Well, maybe not. Or he could always do it later, too. So this is another North Samaria from MrByer, which will take it... There is some slight corruption. This is not as bad as it looks, but this bypasses the mummy hellway with the torches. And he's mapping to reduce the corruption. So, could have done the bomb jump with the lamp, but this is faster, definitely. And it also bypasses the sword requirement in Skullwoods, so if you have, like, the hammer or, like, fire rod and a bunch of magic, you can get to Mothula this way. So that was a very fast fight from MrByer, but I would expect it to be with Tempered Sword. But an interesting thing about fighting Mothula with corrupted VRAM like this is you can't actually see which way the floor is moving. You have to just kind of feel it based on the way Link is moving. So it can make the fight trickier if you are under-equipped. You get a fast fight from MrByer, and it is a crystal. So, in case that you missed it earlier, Red already has Mothula down. He used a hook push from Pod to get to the Mothula arena, but was not able to collect the prize, already having the Pod crystal and not being in Skullwood state. So the hammer is on the pedestal, which is not going to be collected this seed because, I mean, frankly, they don't need it. It's a convenience item in no logic anyway. So Red going to bypass the big key requirement of Eastern a different way, setting up a stuck push. It is able to use a stuck hook in combination with a boomerang to set a large vertical distance, and when he gets it, we'll see him fly across the room and through the wall, completely bypassing the big key door. So, meanwhile, MrByer is showing us why he doesn't need the hammer, in one example, by using a screen wrap to get to a magic bat. Okay, very nicely done. That's what's known as a 0A stuck push. Using the up left boomerang, it sets a very far north distance. Oh, MrByer, going back to deserts. This could be a lot of things. This could be for Landmo, or it could be a swamp play, it could be a mire play. Meanwhile, Red gets the boss of Eastern down. Collects the fourth crystal of the match for him. Alright, MrByer storing a stuck hook on the previous screen. Unfortunately misses the release for it. And decides to just move the wall anyway. Alright, Red also showing us a hook push to get into Mire from Eastern. And Red not having any medallions does not leave to check the medallion. So Red is in Eastern Palace State right now, even though he's in Mire. So, although apparently we found out on MrByer's side that Mire is a pendant, so that's really convenient for both runners, I would have to say. So, wait, I believe MrByer mirrored out without collecting the crystal. I could be mistaken on that. But there are a lot of reasons why you would want to do that. But either way, it has Landmo down, because that is a requirement of the rules of this tournament. It's not just having the 7 crystals, the bosses must also be defeated as well. So the reason why you might not want to collect the dungeon prize is because when you collect a dungeon prize from a boss, it warps you to the front of that boss's dungeon. And that can be used for efficient routing purposes. So MrByer is doing East Samaria right now. This will take him into the back of Swamp. And since he has flippers, can just go to Argus regularly. But since we're in desert state, and I'm assuming that he did not collect the desert crystal, it's going to fall when he fights Argus. He's going up and down the stairs to correct the tile set. This will allow him to progress through the waterfall, because with the desert tile set there are issues to... Basically, it's a wall. You can't go through it. And the big key of Hera is, I mean, can be nice to have, but it's not needed, especially in seats that have the hook shot available. It could be useful to have the Hera door open in other seeds, but not in this seed. That's not going to be relevant. And there are other ways to open it in any case. Okay, so Red into the fishbone room. The only reason to come here is for hook pushing. Or unless you're playing like a pot shuffle seed. I've seen Red do a stuck push from here before, and in that area he was trying to do it in, it's very difficult to set up because the timing on the hook is a lot tighter the shorter it has to travel. Meanwhile, we get a fast Argus kill from MrByer, confirming that he did mirror out of Landmo. So Landmo now has the Desert Crystal and has defeated Landmo, and will be teleported to the front of Swamp, but in the fake Dark World, so he has his Link state without having the Moon Pearl. And is re-entering because he's going to set up a hook push. And this hook push will take him to the Mothula super tile. And since Mothula is already dead, and he is in Swamp state, being the last dungeon that he entered, the Crystal of Swamp will fall after he gets this. Might need to set his direction and distance again, having a little trouble here. Oh, he restarted the whole thing. I mean, this is fine. He has plenty of resources. Okay. I think that was good. We'll see in a second here. Meanwhile, Red into the Vitreous fight by doing multiple stuck pushes. So MrByer finds out that Swamp is a pendant, which is full info for him. So Red, being an Eastern Palace state, does not get a prize from Vitreous, but does have the boss killed. So unfortunately for Red, that Meyer is a pendant, so that's not something that he needed to do, but it could have been helpful. I didn't really talk about it, but what we just saw Red do was a common way to climb the mountain. One of the 2 Hera clips we can do. It's just a screen wrap to take you to the top of the mountain quickly. Commonly seen in any mode where overworld glitches are allowed. I didn't know logic overworld glitches are glossed over a lot because there's so many other glitches going on, but overworld glitches are a really good foundation for all glitched modes. So by doing a screen wrap and then going into a dungeon or a connector, you can reset your camera. So, in this case, not with the correct camera though. Okay, so Red, by screen wrapping again and then falling down the mountain, is displacing a mirror portal. He can use this to check the Pyramid Fairy. Meanwhile, MrByer is setting up an overworld conveyor. This is another misslotting glitch, but this time it's misslotting a bomb. And using this downwards conveyor, he'll be able to get into Laser Bridge. Yeah, this can be really annoying. When I do this, I like to scroll the screen as far to the right as possible because it gets the Lionels off your back. Because what he's doing right now, he has to tap the diagonal ledge above him, but he has to remain facing north because his goal is to clip like down through the collision, but if he's not facing up, he won't carry the conveyor state into Turtle Rock when he enters through the door. Okay, he gets the clipping state. So, since he's facing up, he has carried the conveyor state into the dungeon. It just needs to wait a few seconds, and then he did not wait long enough, and now, unfortunately, is stuck. Because you need to wait a little bit for Link to, like, screen wrap, and then you take the transition north, and then you're able to death warp. The reason that you need to do that is because when you're a bunny, you can't bomb open the wall. So you need to die, and then with your Link state, you can bomb the wall open and access the dungeon that way. So probably he's going to attempt this again. You have to wait, I think it's at least 3 seconds. I wait 5 seconds just to be safe. But it takes about 3 or 4 seconds for you to wrap far enough to just walk north without getting stuck like that. So meanwhile, we're getting a Ganon's Tower play from Red. This is another Citrus clip. Okay, he gets it. Very nice. He has to Death Warp to get Link State. MrByer, again, contending with the Lionel. And decides to play it safe. I don't blame him at all. Okay, this time MrByer waited long enough and was able to transition the screen. Meanwhile, Red setting up another stuck push. Well, that's an interesting shortcut to Rando Room. I forgot you could do it that way. There's so many ways to get to Rando Room in this mode. Like, he could have also stuck push past the hammer requirement on the left side if he wanted to, but there's another way to get to the Dark Magician Room as well. However, he'll be unable to leave once he does that, because that specific trick requires Bombos to leave, because you're desynced with the sprites in the room, and it's a kill room. Okay, so Red does a West Samaria. And the result of that was he was able to open the door leading to the big chest room. We're seeing some very nice routing from Red in the seed. Since that West Samaria not only deleted the door, it also despawned the sprites, so he doesn't have to fight Ice Armos. He can just take the chests and leave. He's thinking. Meanwhile, MrByer exploring Turtle Rock, not finding a fire rod so far. Yeah, I suppose I should have mentioned this earlier, but they definitely need a fire rod for Trinex. We saw MrByer bypass the fire rod requirement for Skullwoods, but for Trinix, there is no way that's allowed in this tournament rule set. Okay, so Red's setting up another stuck push. Ooh, maybe a little bit slow on the release. This trick involves some pretty tight timing, so it's hard to diagnose exactly why it fails when it does, but it looks like he's going to try again. MrByer attacking the skull that took him out earlier. Okay, this is interesting. I like what MrByer's doing as well. So the reason why he exited out the front and re-entered is because when you use corruption to check the right side, the only way out is to mirror or death warp. So he's going to be able to do other checks after this, at least more quickly, I should say, since he exited out the front. So this corruption actually does two things. So the first thing it does is it allows you to check this right side without using a fire rod. Big key of pod is not helpful right now. So the other thing that corruption does is you can go to Ganon's tower from there as well. You can also use a potion to do it in a more stable manner, but either way, MrByer probably is going to GT, and he has 3 keys, so that's a lot to work with. He's getting another key, so a third thing that Samaria does is it copies the... or it basically dupes the Poke key. Okay, gets a North YBA, so now we're underneath Moldorm right now, so there's a bomb jump you may have seen if you're familiar with Dorando that will allow you to travel backwards from this room and get the other 3 chests. Can also get the chest in this room right now, obviously. Meanwhile, Red into the right side of GT, trying to bypass the fire rod requirement, accidentally gets stuck, it looks like. So there's another hook push you can do in the room to the left. It's a little bit tricky, but I'm sure he could have done it if he had thought to do it, or maybe he wasn't aware, but yeah, that Torches room is like one of my least favorite rooms in the entire game, but there are ways to bypass it without doing that awful bomb jump, though. Boomerang, not what we're hoping for. It would have been nice to have if it was the first boomerang, but... Okay, now we're getting East Samaria. I can't remember what this one is going to do. Oh, back to Hookshot Cave. So... yeah, oh wow, he got it. Really nice. So when you're falling in a pit like that repeatedly, using your Y item is frame perfect, and he got it. There are other examples where you might want to like mirror or do something else when you're falling like that, which obviously would only happen from a glitch, but that I've seen that attempted before, but I haven't seen anyone get it in that specific case, so that was really cool. that he was able to check Hookshot Cave after that play, or to close it off, rather. So Red getting the map of Meyer, gonna get his bad news the next time he's in the Dark World. I missed that. I knew there was a map there, but I didn't see which one it was before. MrByer has had that Meyer map from Checkerboard for quite a while now. Oh man, checking the Hera big chest. I think we're getting desperate here on MrByer's side. Because without the Fire Rod, I can't do Trinex or Cold Stare. It doesn't have Bombos to take care of Cold Stare either. And it really amazes me that even with the double rods preset that we still end up with these rod hunts and seeds. Okay, RedKitsune8 is setting up a... Actually, I'm not going to assume what it is because apparently you can do a lot more things in the store. I thought he was going to do a glitch called Death Hole Argus, but this could be just going back to TR the way he did earlier. Oh, meanwhile... MrByer is trying to hook push to get the basement item without opening the door and doing the tile room. So Red gets his multiple North Samaria corruptions to take him back to Turtle Rock from Desert. Okay, he's also setting up a hook push, it looks like. So I'm not sure exactly where Red is trying to go with this. It looks like his distance wasn't far enough because he did not transition after doing the push. Oh wow, a Fire Rod in Hera basement, that's awful. Wow, garbage seed. We need a reroll here. Alright, so MrByer is firmly in go mode now. Does not need the Moon Pearl or any other items. It's cool that he got that hook push. That seems to be kind of a difficult room to work with. Alright, so the well is adjacent to Ice Palace in the Underworld map, so we're seeing another stuck push from MrByer right now. Unfortunately misses on the first try, but has plenty of resources to set it up once more. Meanwhile, Red exploring TR, and we already know from MrByer that unfortunately he's not going to find anything here. Well, he might get another sword. We know one was in Skull Woods. Yeah, I don't remember where MrByer's other two swords were, other than the one in Mini Moldorm Cave and Skull Woods. I thought there was one in Thieves Town, but I could be wrong about that. Because Red did Thieves Town. Might have skipped it though. He did delete the Maiden Cell chest, so it's possible it was that chest. So meanwhile, MrByer has exited Ice Palace and re-entered to set his dungeon ID to Ice Palace. Does an IP lobby clip, a really nice shortcut that we see in a lot of glitch speedruns. So red setting up in North Samaria. The result, one of the results of this, I should say, because these do a lot of things. He's trying to delete the small key door, would be my guess. Though, unfortunately, didn't leave. Well, it might not have deleted it then, if that's the case, because you have to have bombed open the back door, and I missed if he did that. I'm guessing that he did, but I did not see it. Yeah, sorry, I'm having trouble keeping up with chat, because I normally read chat on my phone, and it's the browser's having issues. But anyway, yeah, MrByer did a hook push from the basement cage room to check here basement without using a key or waiting for tiles to find the fire rod. Right now, he's setting up a spin YBA. So by doing the YBA, drinking a potion on the same frame as you transition, and then releasing the spin of your sword while the effect is happening, it adds an extra effect. So in this case, we're able to reach Cold Stare without using a glove or a hammer. And Cold Stare is down for MrByer. Gonna have his 6th crystal. Okay, nice quick Hera clip with the hook shot from MrByer. I'm gonna go back to Turtle Rock with his fire rod. Hey, this time using a different method. So by placing a mirror portal and clipping into the terrain in the light world, and then using the portal to take you back in the dark world, you can reach the overworld teleport pixel in the dark world and use it as a bunny, assuming that you're clipped in to the correct pixel. So should be 9 pixels in for the downward teleport, and he gets it. Very nice. Oh, is he really gonna do the bunny mirror wrap? This is cool. I knew this was possible, but I haven't seen anyone actually do it before. Well, I guess not, because he went past the spot that you would jump from for that, but I don't know, maybe he's doing a different... Yeah, he's attempting the mirror wrap, but this is a different setup. It looks like he's going for like an older setup. Yeah, bombing himself to reach the last pixel before the screen transition. So this is similar to the potion glitches. You need to mirror on the same frame. Yeah, I kind of thought that wasn't going to work, but I thought maybe he knew something that I didn't. Because the way that I know to set that up involves jumping from a very specific part on that Turtle Rock climb, as we call it. And then it sets you with the correct pixel to do it after you do a couple jumps from the correct spot, or quick hops, rather. So Red still exploring, using an STC to go to Ganon's Tower. So unlike the way that MrByer was here, this way is a lot more unstable. Also, the fact that he only has 1 key, I don't think he's going to be able to get the mini Helma room. Not that there was anything good there, but... Or just a boomerang, which he already has 1 of, but... Nonetheless. Okay, MrByer this time getting the mirror wrap. And since he already opened the door, it is not going to be stuck. because that's the main reason why I suspect people don't do the bunny mirror app is because there's no way to open the door if you haven't opened it already. Okay, so red, setting up another stuck push. And his camera is totally messed up, so I don't know where he's gonna go from this. Oh, he's using this to not waste the key. I see now. Okay, this is really smart. Because you do need 2 keys to do all the checks here, if you don't bypass the key requirement another way. See, but as you can see, he's not able to get that chest because this Samaria, the corruption just doesn't allow you to actually enter that room. And he can't interact with the sprites either. He's trying to steal a key. But meanwhile, MrByer hook pushing into the Trinex fight. Or no, maybe he just rode there normally. I apologize if I was wrong. It's hard to watch 2 screens at once, do commentary. I forgot that he had the big key. Okay, that is 7 crystals for MrByer. So, there are a variety of ways to get to Agatsu that are legal in this mode. And I expect we're going to see a quadrant glitch plus the STC combination for MrByer. And there are a couple rooms you can do it in. And he's going for this room. From my understanding, this one is maybe a little bit trickier, but I haven't learned this one, but you can also do it in the room above. So, first arms the quadrant glitch, then sets up the North Samaria. Meanwhile, red also going for Aga. Although, not having the Moon Pearl, defeating Aga early is something some people might want to avoid. Okay, MrByer did not get the quadrant glitch because he didn't go to the correct room after doing the Samaria. So when you defeat Agatsu, you get a free link state on top of the pyramid. And that's one of the reasons why you might want to wait before doing Agatsu. Okay, this time MrByer has succeeded. The red finding out about the swamp and Meyer pendants, I should say. Alright, Agatsu is down for MrByer, and he's going for the Clipe. Oh, having a little trouble. It's unfortunate. Oh, yeah, he does actually get through the wall, but not in time to save time. So the goal of that trick is to go out of bounds and scroll the bat off screen and skip the cutscene, but it looks really cool if you do it quick enough, but it's not really that important, but I just like it. Anyway, into the Ganon fight for MrByer. Alright, phase 1 and 2 down for MrByer. Alright, MrByer getting 1 arrow in Ganon and getting a torch glitch. Alright, 3 arrows, 4 arrows. Alright, Ganon is down for MrByer. And he is going to take this race after he crosses the bridge. Alright, get your GGs in chat for MrByer. He completes the race with a time of 1 hour, 38 minutes, and 57 seconds. A GG. Should be getting both of these guys in for an interview in a second here. But that unfortunately will eliminate Red from this tournament, but he had quite a run. Did defeat several opponents, one of them being Doomtap, a very skilled Link to the Past player. This is lower bracket round 3, I think. This is pretty far into the tournament to answer a question in chat, and I am joined by RedKitsune8. Hello, GG.
GG's.
You know, I really liked some of your routing that you did. You showed us a lot of things that we don't normally see from people, and we're joined by MrByer as well. GG to the winner of this match.
GG's.
GG's,
Yeah, I was just saying that Red did a lot of interesting routing things that we, at least I don't think we've seen in the tournament. He did it at North STC from Desert to TR, but not the spin Samaria that we normally see. Also did an STC from Uncle to Pod, although I think that had some unfortunate side effects, and it just did a lot of hook pushes in spots we don't normally see.
Hey.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, Red.
No, I was only saying that the ground warp from Uncle to Pod, I tested yesterday, and the camera works at some point, but I have no idea how to, because I thought I have idea, but it seems like I have no idea how to restore the camera and the sprites. And I don't know, whenever I see it's giving you some area so early, I have no idea what to do, so more or less I have this week seen some things, okay, let's go to TR, let's go to Pod, let's go to do the things.
Well, yeah, did that Samaria?
Because
yeah, that's a good point that you brought. I was just gonna ask really quick, so because I missed it, did that North Samaria from Uncle delete the maiden cell chest, or was I mistaken about that?
Yes.
Okay, so and I think there was a sword in that chest.
Was there?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, maybe I was. You had a sword that Red did not find. Red actually tree warped the mini Moldarm cave sword, so maybe I was mistaken about that sword location, but I was curious why you found more swords than he did. Like, he did eventually get the Laser Bridge sword, but I don't think he got the Skullwood sword.
I don't remember what temper was.
And did not get the other sword that you got.
Yeah, the other sword was Hype Cave, I think.
Oh, okay. Right, I remember that now.
Yeah, I remember the first two were both caves, so both tree warpable.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I do remember the Master Sword and Hype Cave for you, but you also had some very good routing as well. I really like your triple stat quadrant glitch and a lot of other things you did. Did you have any particular thoughts about this seed other than the fact that it was a fire rod hunt?
Yeah, it kind of sucks that both games ended up evolving to fire rod hunts, because like this is why we play double rods, to avoid this situation. But at least this time I got to have fun with hook pushing.
Yeah, I was concerned that Red was not going to get the lamp with it being on the green pendant, and I actually missed where it was at first, but there weren't many locations that you went to that he didn't, and then he eventually did get the lamp, and so both of you were hook pushing like all over the place, so it was a really fun race to watch.
Yeah, I was a little concerned about early Kane, because I know Red's probably better at STCs than I am, or at least knows more of them. But I think I did okay, regardless.
I don't know. Yes, I know now that the fire rod was in Era Basement. I was never going to go to Era Basement. I was so sad. This is totally a last location for me. Let's who knows where is the other fire rod, but I don't know. This is one of the races that you are say, okay, I'm going to skip this location, and you unless your opponent is doing the same, which sometimes happens, it's really difficult to analyze.
Yeah, it's kind of lucky that I went to her basement because I was at that point I was planning to go to GT because that was the densest area, and then I was in Hera and I had the big. It was like, may as well get the big chest. And then I realized I could probably hook push to basement chest too, so I was like, may as well get the basement chest too.
Yeah, that was a really cool hook push because that room is kind of hard to work with, but you managed to get it. That was really cool to see.
I think I've seen it a long time ago, and I luckily remembered how to do it. I did remember you had to turn it the beam on the switch because I don't think you have enough space otherwise.
Okay, that makes sense. It's a really tight space to work with, and I see a lot of people get like terminated when they try to do it, or they just don't go far enough, get stuck in a wall, or it just doesn't work for whatever reason.
It might be possible with fire rod setting distance instead, but obviously didn't have that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So Red, I am curious though, for my own like personal reasons. When you did the Samaria to TR from Desert, how many times did you have to corrupt it to do that?
5.
5. Wow.
times.
Okay.
I am more or less used to because the old dungeons route, the old bosses route that you have to do 7 times to get the hookshot from MrByer. So it's 5. It's like 2 less than usual. So easy.
That's really interesting. I was just curious. So, yeah, this was a really interesting race to watch. It was just a little bit unfortunate on Red's side because Red actually went and killed Vitreous before finding out that Meyer was a pendant. So that was a bit of a time sink as well. But Red did have an early crystal lead, but yeah, the race just kind of came down to you, MrByer, having more knowledge and just finding the fire rod first, unfortunately. But
at some point, I think I was in pod and I find pod there, and I think, okay, I can push, I can hook push without lamp, with what I have is more or less useful, and I even go and kill Mothula. I was more or less thinking, okay, let's assume that I do not need the fire rod, so then I go to Vitreous and everything that is not fire rod needed. But I was still opening things, so I was like not going full. I don't need their fire rod, but also losing time in MrByer going around. I don't know. Fancy, but a little bit looking for a fire rod.
yeah, I liked the play that you did. So your silver arrows, your second bow, were on Helmasaur, and you used it right away after the fight to set up an Index 6 push to Mothula. I really liked the play. It just it did not work out in this particular seed. Like, it wasn't that beneficial in this case. 'Cause we never even saw Bombos, so you couldn't even do Cold Stare either. It was a pretty unfortunate situation.
Yeah. I was assuming that maybe 5 and Bombos. And silver arrows were really handy at that moment, but I still have red boomerang, so I think I wasn't needing the silver arrow, but I'm not sure because red boom, hook push, I am a little bit rusty.
Yeah, it's a little different. I personally am not that familiar with the red boomerang setup, but I know it's possible. But I just want to say to you both really quick that the execution from both of you was really nice to see. It was a great race to watch and to commentate.
Thank you.
GG's again, and I wish luck for Bayer for the next rounds because the tournament is being really fun.
Yep.
I get really far from my initial point that I haven't played no Logic. I have started playing no Logic since 6 months ago, so I really am kind of noob in this area. I am really happy with the far I have got, and all the luck for Bayer.
Next opponent's checks, and I think that's where my losers run is finally gonna end.
You never
Who
know.
knows?
You've made it this far.
Yeah. Checks is really good though.
Yeah, checks is definitely very, very good. I wouldn't say anything against that. Congratulations to you again, MrByer, and unfortunately that is it for RedKitsune8 in this tournament, but made it very, very far, defeated several opponents. I was corrected in chat, this is lower bracket round 5, so Red is in the top 6, which is very impressive. So
I had luck in the sense that my routing was really beneficial in the other seats that I play, even though some of them were really more tight, really more difficult to find the things. And this is the case when the routing is not helping you, which I don't know. Rando is rando, no? It doesn't matter if we're playing on logic or casual boots. Rando is rando, and if you don't go somewhere, so you get punished sometimes.
yeah, that's true. Rando is rando. MrByer, I can't think of any specific questions for you off the top of my head right now, but do you have any other thoughts before we wrap this up?
I don't think so. It was a fun seed for sure.
Yeah, we did get to see that bunny mirror wrap, very not often seen, because you already had the door open. That was nice.
I probably should have conveyored in hindsight, especially after I missed the first one.
Yeah, it happens though. I mean, it was still interesting. There's so many ways to do things in no logic, so it's always interesting to see what people do. So, all right, if neither of you read any further thoughts.
Nothing else. GG's again. It was a fun seed. The previous one was also fun. And let's continue glitching in the next races.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be races on Discord as well that we could play, and more monthly asyncs. So, MrByer will advance to face Chex Human, and the winner of MrByer versus Chex Human will face the loser of Malmo versus Krittle. And I think, let me check the schedule really quick here. So right now,
Sunday. I think is the double header.
Yes, Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern, Malmo versus Krittle, Game 2 and possibly Game 3 will be happening. And that is a winner's bracket final. So, all right. Well, I'll see you there. Thank you to our racers. GG to both of them. Thank you to Mad Ewok Herd for tracking. Thank you to, I believe it was T Sigma for helping set up and restream. And thank you everyone for watching. Have a nice day, everyone.